Hello and welcome to Design Basics. In this video, we're going to discuss fillets and chamfers. These are both great features to get rid of sharp edges, to add details to a component, or to potentially strengthen a zone that you have on a feature. So to start off with, we're going to use the fillet feature. This feature is great because it adds a rounded edge as compared to the chamfer, which gives you more of a straight cut edge. So we're going to just do a 1/4 inch chamfer, and we're going to use this edge here. And as you can see, as soon as I click those edges, it rounds them off. So here you can see it's rounded all those edges. I can also choose these edges here. And what that'll do is it'll just give it a little bit more of a rounding detail. I would typically do this for, let's say, a lid for a box would be a great example. A whole slew of different things, of course, that's up to you to find out. Next thing you can actually do with a fillet is this detail in here I could do. So I'm actually going to go click to add. And I'm going to add another one that's going to be a little bit bigger, 0.375. And I'm going to click it into here. So you can see I've made a bigger fillet on these two edges. And essentially what that does is it just makes it so there's a little bit more material and there's less of just that corner edge. Of course, if I wanted to change this, I can make it 0.125 and it can make that fillet in there as well. Another thing you can do with a fillet, and this is one of my preferences for a cylinder that's on a surface, is doing a fillet on the bottom where it connects to the top of a surface. I typically find that what this does is it takes away the pressure point of that straight edge meeting, and it just evens it out throughout the curve. Another thing you can do is a fillet on the top edge. I usually like to have a chamfer on the top, but that's just because of the engineering background I have with metal. So that's usually what they do when they have a lathe. So that's some of the features you can do with the fillet. Now that we're done that, we're now going to go into chamfers. There's a couple ways that you can use these. So to start off with, we're going to just use it the basic way. We're going to just turn this around the other way. And the basic way would be, let's change this to a 1/4 inch. You just choose an edge and it'll automatically cut it a 45-degree angle at your specified distance. This is probably the easiest way to use a chamfer. It's very simple, and in fact a 45-degree is very commonly used for 3D printing, as you won't need supports if it's on the bottom edge. So if I were to technically print this surface, I would not need any supports except for these edges that are overhanging too much. So a thing to note is chamfers are very helpful when it comes to making some 3D prints a little bit easier. So this is one way of using the chamfer. Another would be, of course, to chamfer the cylinder that's meeting a bottom of a top of a surface. I don't normally like to have a chamfer. I prefer fillet just because of that rounded feature. But again, it could still work if you want. But I do like having a chamfer on the top edge. The reason why I like having a chamfer on the top edge is it makes it easier if you're going to have if it's a pin and it can fit into a hole, that just the chamfer just makes it a lot nicer to have that fit into place. Otherwise, you can use a fillet if you like. So that's the first way of using a chamfer. The next way to use a chamfer is to actually do a distance and an angle. Now this is one of my preferred ways of using a chamfer if I don't like a 45-degree angle. So you choose a surface, and then you would choose an edge. So for example, we can choose all these edges here. And then what you can do is you can actually change this to say, let's say 60 degrees, and you'll see that the angle actually got longer compared to the 45. So if I went back and did 45, you can see that it has actually extended quite a bit. I can also do 30 and it makes it shorter. So this is the great thing about angles, is it lets you change how much of the bevel that you're making is going to be there. Another thing you can actually do with these chamfers is you can do the corners, but you'd have to choose a new surface and then choose that chamfer. So let's say I want to make this 30 degrees. So you could have something like that. The last way to do a chamfer is my least favorite way to go because it involves a lot more work. But if you know the distances you want to use, it's definitely your go-to version. So you would choose an edge, and then you would say your two distances. So let's say I want it to be a 1/2 inch by a 1/4 inch. So now you can see it's going to automatically make your angle for you, but you can only choose the one edge. If I chose another edge here, it's going to just switch it to that edge. Another thing to note is I can flip it so that it has the distance on the opposite side. If I didn't like where it's sitting, instead of changing the dimensions, it does it for you. That might not be in all softwares, but it's a nice little add-on if you have it. So that's the 3 basic ways of using a chamfer and the way to use a fillet. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Otherwise, this is Tyler with 3D Printer Store, and I hope you have a great day.